Hi, welcome to episode 1 of Swim for Land. Hi, my name's Tom, and welcome to Swim for Land. This is a podcast about mental health, and I want it to be for people who aren't comfortable talking about mental health, because what I think is going to come out of this year, 2020, which has been a joy from start to finish, is that there are going to be a lot of people who have not had to deal with this kind of stuff before. Depression, anxiety, feelings of hopelessness. And I've found through my own experiences, because I am a sufferer of all that, through my own experiences of talking to other people, I've found that when someone else identifies with something that I'm feeling, it's a starting point for getting better. When I say that I've sat staring into space for half an hour and someone else goes, yeah, I've done that. And you go, well, it's a thing then, it's not just me being a maniac. Then that's why I think it's important for us to open a dialogue, because I think that coming out of the lockdown and out of the COVID situation in 2020, we are going to be faced with some challenges, quite big challenges. And I'm not entirely sure that the system is there in place to deal with this. So I think we need to take charge of this. We need to have a look round in our communities, check in our pals, check in our family, check on neighbours that we maybe don't really know, but to just take the control back into the community about having each other's backs. My first guest is going to be JANEY GODLEY, who is a very close friend of mine and has been a fantastic influence in my life the past 10, 15 years, especially when it comes to talking about mental health and being open and honest about stuff. But first, I would like to speak to Anne Rowan from Chris's house about how you can get help. Okay, Anne, thanks for joining me today. Anne, what is Chris's house?
Centre of Help, Response and Intervention surrounding suicide. That's anything that is pertaining to suicidal thought or suicidal loss to suicide, suicidal crisis, suicidal ideation. So it's a crisis centre. We're on call 24/7. Although we're not a great big charity like Samaritans have got multiple lines, we've only got one line. But if you actually land on your voicemail, we will call you back.
Right.
But 24/7 our phone line is manned.
Okay.
So,
and
yeah.
Is it okay for me to share your phone line and your website?
100%. 01236 766 755.
Well, just by magic, that's appeared on the screen behind me. And what is the website?
What's the website? www.chrishouse.org. We've got a big Facebook following. We're on Instagram and Twitter.
Right. Aye. Well, it's so nice to know that you guys are there. And thank you so much, Anne, for doing this kind of stuff, because we're going to have to start looking for people like you to get us through this.
Oddly enough, it's the third sector. It's usually the third sector that are picking, that are taking the most of the weight, I'm afraid, because there isn't enough services for emotionally and mentally unwell people. You know, there's the demand is huge, and we're a sick country. You know, Scotland's pretty no well.
Well, I think the whole world's going to be facing that. Scotland, I think we can laugh at ourselves and get each other through it. I think is a big important part of all this, you know. And the guest I've got coming up in this episode is JANEY GODLEY, who I think that you'll agree with me has just kept us going through this, you know, just really. And thank you so much for coming on chatting to us. And I'll post all your details on the link with the podcast as well. Thank you so much.
Well done in what you're doing. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Anne. And the details of how to get in touch with Chris's house are in the description of this podcast. So now, without further ado, here she is, my pal JANEY. JANEY, how are you?
I am good, Tom. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I just wanted to get you on because this year has been, and I know that you know this because we're all going through it. This year has been the weirdest year of my life, and I think it's been the weirdest year of everyone's life of our generation. And you've kind of almost invented a way of us coping with this by not finding the funny side, because that's a kind of funny
But
thing
it
to say,
is
but
that
just
as well.
but it's like I don't know how I would have got through this year without the Frank Get the Door stuff, because it's so serious and it's such a scary year that we've got to have a bit of a valve.
Yeah, I think that the Frank at the door and the voiceovers and the wee animals talking is just given. You know how sometimes when you were wee and boys were different, but lassies had a book of scraps, right?
Some boys did as well, Jenny.
Yeah, some boys did as well, but mostly in my generation, it's all wee lassies had scraps.
Yeah.
So we'd go up somebody's door and go, Rachel, do you want to come out and we'll look at... And me and Rachel, in the midst of all the 60s and the madness and the poverty, we'd sit in the stairs and we'd go, oh, an angel scrap. I'll give you an angel scrap for a wee boy scrap. And we'd sit for yours. So in a way, we've encapsulated that Frank at the door, the voiceovers, the wee animals talk. We're all kind of just sitting in the stairs sharing scraps together and
That's
focusing on something else other than behind.
Because that's what happens. I watch obsessively. I watch the update every day to find out the terrible news, as it always is. But then 2 hours, well, sometimes even minutes later, the translation's on, and it's almost as if you're going, it's all right. It's all right. You know, we're going to, we'll get through it. It's like you're a mammy kind of going, there, you know, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to get through this. But how do you muster that every day? Because I know that some days I wake up and I don't want to get out my bed. You're getting up and you're...
I've had about 3 or 4 huge meltdowns where, I mean, and there's different circumstances, because I have got a husband who's got autism. I have got a daughter who's got autism and anxiety. So by default and nature, I have to be the strong one, because if I fall apart, everybody falls apart, which is a terrible thing to say, but that's no truth. But that's how I feel sometimes. That, see, if I fall off the raft and go into the water, then they're coming with me. And that's why I always talk about an emotional life jacket and keep yourself afloat. Because see, if I've got the life jacket on, I can hold them up as well. So it's all about trying to... I have to make a decision in the morning to go, can I just say, ram it, Bunty, and stay in my bed? Well, I can't, because A, I've got work. B, I've got to... My work is comedy. I've got to go and answer emails, do stuff. And I feel as though if I give up, they will give up as well. And I know they won't, but it's just a mammy thing. It's a mammy thing.
It's extended beyond your immediate family in the house, because it has actually had that effect on the rest of us. I mean, me and you are really close pals. We have been for many years. And I'd sometimes will phone you and go, Janie, and 9 times out of 10, you phone me because you can tell when I'm not right, right? But you've got this kind of... My mother was quite a strong character, as I've told you a lot about my mother. She didn't take any shite, and she would fight for her kids and she would fight for her family. And I get that kind of thing from you, from a personal point of view. But I think that nationally, a lot of people will click on your videos each day just to get a little bit of a kind of, we're all hating this. We're all...
Yeah. I mean, and it's compounded with the Trump thing. And I think with him not conceding has made it worse. It's like we've got an angry stepdad who's been told by the courts he has to leave. And he's like, nah, my house, my rules. And that's making us on nervous as well. You know, he's like that angry stepdad. But he just... And the police have been up twice and they've went, you need to go. And he's like, nah, back at my house, my rules. I'm staying. Everybody likes me. You ask me up the coast, they all like me. She's a liar. It's like we're being gaslit as well.
It's just the weirdest year. Everything that could possibly... you couldn't write it. But who'd have thought it Hogmanay... I mean, it's Jackie Bird's fault for no presenting the bells. But
I
who'd have
would
thought?
think so.
If I'd said to you on Hogmanay, Janie, see this year, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, you'd be like, shut up. And I keep thinking
You'd
it's a
have told
dream.
me I was going to write a book called Frank Get the Door and it'd sell and end up in the bestsellers list. I'd have come out of your house and hit you with a skull in the heat.
Not the skull sandals. The most terrifying weapon of the 70s. Never mind the nuclear terror threat. It was a skull sandal.
Aye.
But yeah, you're in the top 10 bestsellers list. That's incredible.
With a book,
And
which
that,
is a transcription of videos.
aye, but
And
who's
while
Frank?
this was done, talking about mental health, while we were going through this, I had to write a novel that I was commissioned to do. And oh my God, Tom, it was like a weight on my back because I couldn't get my brain into a writing focused thing. And I had to get offices in town. There's a charity, an epilepsy charity, kindly gave me space in their shut down office where I could just get space, me and Caitlin, my research assistant, and we got writing. And then it all came out and all, but God, it was so hard. It was really the hardest thing I ever done was to write that book. Not because I don't like writing, I love writing. I'm a good writer. It's so difficult to be creative.
But I think it's escapism as well, because you've let me read the book. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and it's an escape back to the 70s, the 60s and 70s. It's reminding me of my childhood. It's reminding me of the old neighbours and the old characters.
Before I give a spoiler alert, the book is basically set in 2 time zones. That's all we can tell you. No, you haven't. You haven't said anything more than I've said online. And I've said on TV, the book's set in the 70s and it's set in present day and it's a sort of parallel story. So it was quite technically difficult to write with the tenses as well. So yeah, I got it all out and it was hard. It was really hard.
But did you get, because I was getting escapism from reading it from this crazy year. Did you get that writing it?
Yeah, there was times, I mean, I was writing about when they went to London in 1977 for the Queen's Jubilee. And I can tell you this wee bit that was so funny and beautiful. And it's this wee woman, and she's gone to London to celebrate the Queen. She'll be working class woman, wear Waynes. And she goes to London to celebrate the Jubilee in 1977. But it so happens that the day the Queen was in London was the day that Scotland versus England at that massive big Wembley thing. And the weird thing is everybody she met was Scottish. So I looked up a YouTube video, and there on July the 12th, 22nd of July 1977, you can see Piccadilly Circus. And in Piccadilly Circus, there's 5 guys with the ginger tammies and the Scotland taps on wandering about. And it was just funny that, you know, it brought back all the memories in 1977 of this wee woman just wanting to go see the Queen, but every second person she met was Tam or Big Frank or Davy McNamara, and you know, and it was that was based on truth. So that kind of it made me escape back to 1976, the hottest summer ever. So it did take my brain out of all this. And I remembered that summer of 76, which was, it wasn't just a hot summer, it was the length of the hot summer. It literally killed people. It went on for about 8 weeks in Scotland.
There was a hosepipe ban, wasn't there? Yeah.
There was everything. The grass dried, ducks died, everything. It was burning hot. And nobody in my peer group wore suntan cream. We just didn't have Factor 40.
You didn't have it? I remember
and we were all just constantly burnt. How we're not all dead, I'll never know.
I don't know. But listen, what I've done this year, and I know you because we've talked about it, my tool that I've used for coping on a day-to-day basis is to give myself music projects and to do the music videos stuff. And I've found that has actually given me a focus and got me through and pulled me out of depression, mainly. Anxiety I still get, but the depression's kind of gone because I'm too busy for it now. And that is my way of dealing with it. If you wake up in the morning, Janie, and you're just like that, I'm staying under this duvet, what gets you out?
I think that you have to have a routine. I can't say this enough. Having a routine. And my husband and Ashley and I, we have a routine. We have to get up. We have to answer the emails. I get a lot of emails and we make a conference of it. So we've got the big table with the big comfy chairs, as you can see, and we all sit round because I get a lot of fan mail, I get a lot of requests, I get a lot of business emails, my agent emails me, the promotional people for the, and we deal with it as a family. It's rather than just me going, I don't know. And Ashley will say, should I reply to this? And I'm like, yeah, reply to that. Oh, there's a book missing. We've posted about some. So it's given us a focus to do something together. And we know that if we leave it, it piles up. And then the next day there's 200 emails. So it's best we deal with them the day. And so I try and have a routine. And during lockdown, my husband got diagnosed with diabetes too, which is not terrible. It's just the tablet one, and he's coping with it. And luckily, he's not overweight or anything. So he has to have medicine at 8 in the morning and eat with it. So I now get up at 8, make porridge, and give him his medicine, because we've turned into really old people that talk about medicine, and which is great. And then the wee dog needs a pee and a poo, so it doesn't matter the weather, she needs to. So trying to stick to a routine. But there is some days where I just go, no, I'm not going. Use all deal with it, and just go to sleep.
I know. But Honey has become quite a star this year as well, because
Honey
she's
has
actually
got an agent.
She's
Honey
been translating for, because kids love Honey, don't they?
Yes.
So kids have been getting the message about social distance and everything through Honey. Because she's a clever wee dog. She can speak.
She can hear you saying her name, and she's did that and then sat up. She's dead cute, so I can't.
I've met Honey twice, and she just stared at me. She was like,
she isn't a friendly dog in the flesh. I have to keep saying to people that when you meet her, she isn't going to be nice, because she's a wee rehome, and she's basically major in a tiny dog's body.
Okay.
So we have to be very careful.
Is she getting quite starry now? Is that the problem?
She's always been dead nervous. People, when we got her, she was just literally lifted out of the house and gave to us. So she's like, I lived here for 3 years, now you don't want me, great. So now she's landed in this house. She's got a ramp built, she's got a pram, she gets special organic tuna. So in her head, everybody that comes near is going to take her away. And she's like, no! These idiots have got me a pram and a ramp.
She's got the best life ever. She's got a chaise longue and she's got a pot and a bowl of rose-scented water and everything. She's fantastic. Oh, my God. So, listen, the reason for doing this podcast is that
Honey's snoring really loudly in the background.
Honey. Whoosh.
Honey.
Chicken. Is that waking her up? My reason for doing this podcast is because I got quite alarmed a few years ago. I mean, you know what I went through a few years ago with my mental health issues, and I tried to get help. And even back then, I was put on a 6-month waiting list for help. And when I eventually got the help, it was so kind of non-specific and so
benign.
Yes, it was like, here's a CD, draw a picture, away you go, got off our list. And what I'm worrying about now, not worrying about, but I'm aware of, is that as we come out of this year and this crazy, surreal situation we've been in, there's going to be a lot of people that have never had to deal with depression or anxiety before, and it started. And the people that have already been dealing with it are going to be needing help. Yeah. And I suspect that the help isn't there.
Yeah, and I think agree with you. I don't think that the National Health Service or the government, whether it be the Scottish government or the UK government or whoever's watching, the Canadian government, I don't think any government is prepared for the tsunami of mental issues that is going to hit when we finally stagger out into the sun after this. Yep. There is people who have got divorced. There's people who can't live with a partner. There's people who've said too much to each other in the darkest of hours. And I think this is going to be a huge mental health pandemic that's going to take a lot of sorting out.
What I thought was is going to have to be the solution is that we're going to have to take it upon ourselves as communities to have a squatch at who's in our circle and start what you're talking about, the emotional life jacket. Get it on,
lift them up.
And for those around us, because I've even spoken to some, I've spoken to some mental health charities in the past couple of weeks to talk about getting a list of numbers for this. And a few of them have said to me, please don't, because we've only got 5 volunteers. We're suddenly going to get swamped. And it's like, I don't know what I'm meant to suggest now. for people to get in contact with, because they are going to not be able to cope because the resources aren't there and the staff aren't there. And so we now have to look to each other to figure a way out of this without having to rely on what's already there, because it can't cope. So with this, I'm just trying to get people to start talking to each other.
Yeah, that's a really good thing, Tom. And I think it's important to accept that the professional help might not be there, but to find somebody you can reach out to and say, I'm at my bleakest point, and you need to hear this. Or if you can't hear it, direct me to somebody who can, because that is going to happen. People are losing their jobs. People are losing their income. People are losing their fucking minds, because this is not something we were mentally prepared for. I did not have the mental gymnastics to deal with this. And there's some days where on Sunday, my husband and I argued over something very simple. I ended up crying so much, I vomited, and I couldn't get out of bed. He was traumatized because he hasn't seen me cry like that in years. It was literally like my daughter had died. That was the kind of crying I was doing. I couldn't hold it in. I was like that, crying. And it wasn't about the argument, because I had won that argument. It was it was about suddenly a big beast kid came out of me, and I ended up throwing up. I was that fucking exhausted with it, you know. But and that's what we're going to have to be ready for.
Yeah, because you know what happened to me in the summer. In the summer, I had a huge sudden onset of depression again, because for the first 2 or 3 months of this lockdown, it was like happy times are here. It was like the war. People got their sleeves rolled up, they were out clapping, they were doing all the stuff. And then as the realization came in that, wait a minute, we're stuck with this for a while. One day I woke up and I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't physically move and get out of my bed. And eventually, after hours, I managed to phone the doctors and start to, and it took weeks. It took weeks and weeks and weeks for me. And you know what it was, because you were one of the people that I could bear to speak to. Yeah. And you phoned. I was just ignoring phone calls. I'm ignoring phone calls.
Yeah, totally. I do too. Janie, I'm like, I can't even explain myself. Go away.
There was one day where I was sitting here in front of my computer, and I was just numb. I just couldn't. I couldn't even look at the screen. I was just sitting numb. I'd managed to get up out of my bed. The phone rang. It said, Janey Godley. I went, right, I'll answer it. And I answered it. And just suddenly it was, that's big eyes are making at me, Nick, the soup pot. And she's away down to the caravan with all the Sanders.
I phoned you up as a character.
Within 2 minutes,
I'd go, this is how the phone calls go, right? I'll be the, brr, brr, right, answer the phone.
Hiya, Janey.
Big Philomena McClatchy there, up at the door. She says her man Tam's ran away with Bunty. Remember big Bunty Lansdale? Her that used to put her hair up in rollers? Ran away with her. That's her left with 3 wains. What's she got to fucking do? Her lassie's up to high dog. Big Philomena McClatchy, she even went to the priest to get some marital guidance, and he had no help at all. Other woman up the stair, big Sandra. Remember Sandra that wasn't very well, that always had the bad ankle? She's looking after her. That's how I would phone Tom.
I know, but with that breaks through whatever wall I've got up. So within a minute, I'm laughing. And my mood's changed, you know. So that's an example.
It's about changing the energy, we call it. We have a thing in this house where when we all you've done it, everybody watching's done this, when we've all got in and we've just sat there and we're all angry at each other and we're staring at the same picture and staring at the same thing and going over and over, and he said, but then she said, but nobody understands how I feel, and this always happens to me, and he never listens. But change the energy. I go, right, we're going out a walk. And I get the dog in a pram, and even though I don't want to speak to him, we change the energy. We look at a tree, we look at the motor, we see a shop, we see somebody we know. It changes the energy, and I think changing the energy helps that tiny wee.
And the good thing about that is that you don't need a degree to be able to do that for somebody close to you. You don't need any medical training. You don't need anything. You just need to
change the energy. That's
you know exactly. You know exactly how to change my energy. You phone up and you do that. You know. I know how to change somebody else's energy.
It doesn't have to be a big thing. You can just go, I'm going to go, and it's pouring the rain, I can't go to walk. I'm going to go and pull out all the clays out the wardrobe and do that thing I was going to do. Change the energy, change it away from sitting there staring at that thing, in that anger, in that mood, in that circle. Change it. Just get the energy just to change it. Even if it's just something simple like, I am going to sort out all the pens in that box. There's some pens that don't even work. Just something different to take your brain from that static thing to another thing.
See, what happens is I'll pull out a cupboard and then halfway through sorting it out, I'll lose the will to live. And
yeah,
it'll
me
sit
too.
there for 7 months.
And then just throw it all back in like a mess.
Aye.
No, I've done it. I've literally got jumpers, trousers, knickers, clays I don't wear, a dress that looks like an amniotic sack that I once bought that I'm never going to wear, all piled in together. So, I
man, I know. So listen, coming out of this, Janie, it's one of these questions that I just can't imagine the answer to. What kind of world are we emerging into? Are we going to emerge? Because at the moment, all I'm seeing is horrible, entitlement and people losing their temper and people getting frustrated and everything. Do you think when this dies down, which it has to, it's going to, are we going to start focusing on looking at like a post-war kind of thing of being kind? Is it because it's hard to see that at the moment?
I think we've got to remember, hang on, you put my wee headphone back in. I think we've got to remember and my husband reminds me a lot, when we get a lot of abuse and anger online, people are stuck in the house.
Yeah.
I kind of give people a pass because I'm like, folk are stuck in the house. So like, I hate Janie Godley. Fine, get it out. They're all stuck in the house. When we come out of this, I think that me and my people are going to be more artistic and creative because it's all been held back. Yeah. I think people like me and you are going to take big daring risks on stage. We're going to write things we never thought we could write. We're going to take chances on theatre that we never thought we would take chances on. You and I are going to sit and Mum will write that. Nobody might come and see it, but we'll do it anyhow because we're used to not having an audience because we've been locked in. So that'll be fine. I think that we're going to come out to a kinder world. I think people are going to realise that was just very toxic. But amongst all the toxicity, there was people like you, people like Mr. Michael Spicer who made funny videos, people like...
Oh, he's great, the guy, the room next door guy, yeah.
All the people that use their talent to try and lift people up, and like you who make great songs, we're going to come out of it knowing people we never knew before, and it'll be like coming out of a cave going, I never knew I liked opera, and now I do. So there's going to be different things,
I know, I've become really good at stuff that I've never thought I'd study. I've learned how to be a video editor, which I didn't think I would ever have the patience to do. Because you're producing stuff every day, you're producing content every day, so we're now able to kind of do things that we couldn't do before. I could make a Spielberg
movie with my phone.
I think we're going to look back in this year and go, do you know what? I learned an awful lot that year. And we might look back on and find some sort of positives to take out of it, because it's really hard to see that at the moment. It's really difficult. I see a lot
of positives already. I've found a lot of things about myself that I never knew. I never knew I had that much patience for people who keep writing to my daughter saying your mammy's blocked me. I never knew I would have patience for that. But I just go, do you want her today? I never knew I would have that much patience to read that much stuff about the trans community. People send you screeds of stuff. I never knew I would have that much patience for politics. I never knew I'd be that interested in Donald Trump's state of mind. But we've all been so incubated that we're starting to see things that we never said. And I'm reading so many books, and I'm so happy that Shuggie Bain won the Booker Prize. Have you read this book?
That's amazing. Yet? I haven't read it yet, no, but
Shuggie is
great.
A friend of mine, and he wrote to me and he said, I read Handstands in the Dark on a train in New York 10 years ago, and you made people like me seen. And that's such a huge accolade for me. And he wrote his book in Scottish tongue. So I've realised that the wee people that, 16 publishers said no to him, the wee people with Scottish voices and wee working class voices actually had a voice. Mm-hmm. And listening to, do you know what else I've realised? I became a TV critic. I'll not suffer a shitty script. That's crap off. I'm not having it.
God.
I became very discerning in my TV watching.
It's been a TV year, hasn't it? Because it started with Tiger King, and then everybody watched Schitt's Creek at the same time.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
I'm gonna.
It's great. And then it's now Diana. I'm obsessed with watching Diana stuff because of The Crown, which I've never watched before. But because I've got the time, I'm now obsessed with it. It's a funny old year. Listen, what I want to ask you finally, Janie, is that
sorry.
Coming out of this, there's going to be a lot of poverty. Where nobody's really addressing that yet. But it's going to be, because when we first went into lockdown, suddenly there was no homeless people in the streets because they were all put in hotels and stuff. And the kind of attitude was, well, we've cured homelessness. And they're like, well, why did it take a worldwide pandemic to... But I think it's going to end up a bigger problem when we come out of this. Now, I know that you get this, right? You get thousands of requests every day to do personalised videos. But this year you've decided to do something quite different with that. Tell me about it.
I've decided for the Homeless Project Scotland, just until the 5th of December, because I've got 2 National Theatre plays to write, that I am doing personalised videos. If you donate £20 or more, and you email them, they tell me when you've got the money, and they send me an email and I do a wee video. So the poor boy thought, that's a great idea. He phoned me 10 minutes ago and went, my phone's on fire. But
see when I saw it, Janie, when I saw it, I went, oh my God, she's going to be
20 of them a day. But during the pandemic, we also raised a lot of money with the Front Get the Door stuff for the STD Children's Appeal, and then we're still raising money for the Carers Trust. And that isn't me saying, look, it's not me, I'm not donating the money. What we're doing is using a focus to bring some money into charities, because they can't rattle cans in the street anymore, and nobody's got the time. So the best way to do it is to sell stuff that people like and then donate money to charity.
The other thing with the homelessness thing is that now, if you're homeless in the street, you're not going to get any money from people, because people, for a start, don't have cash. And secondly, they're not out. So
we've got a boy outside the Tesco's, and when I see him, I always give him a couple of notes, because I know he's not got anything all day. And that's not me being magnanimous. It just is what it is. And I chat away to him, and he always tries to talk to Honey in the Pram, and she tries to rip the face off him. It's a lovely relationship. I was like, please don't. She's just still no up for it. She's like, you're looking at it. I was like, oh, Jesus. Please don't attack the homeless boy, you monster. So, we have to be mindfully people that can't get access to housing and money right now.
Yeah, because it is going to be, that's when they take it back to the immediate community, because I've now got pals that I've lived next door to for 20 years that I've never spoke to. Yeah. Through this, we've all kind of, are you all right? Do you want a hand with anything? That's going to have to ramp up, I think, and from mental health purposes, and if somebody's looking hungry, get the big soup pot out.
Big soup pot out. I've sat in the landing and spoke to my neighbour downstairs, and we don't really chat a lot. Not because we don't like, we're just not that kind of neighbour. But we've sat in the landing and had landing chats. I'm at the top step, she's at the bottom. It was like with the scraps again, sitting having a natter. She's called Ashley downstairs, and we'll sit and have a natter about stuff. And I was talking about my book, and she was like, oh, maybe this could happen. We were sharing ideas, then back upstairs and into the house. I think we have to be more community-minded and be less guarded about who we are to try and help each other.
Because my dad the one thing that I was thinking about a lot this year was my dad, and he used to talk about World War II with a little glint in his eye of happiness, and it wasn't, he didn't remember the bombs, he didn't remember the hardship, he remembered the fact that everybody was together, and he didn't remember the fear of being in an air raid shelter or in the close. He remembered the games they played and the songs they sang and the stories they told. And he remembers that with a real fondness. And I think that that's possibly what we're going to take from this, is that there's been connections made. I've got pals online now in America that I'm really close mates with now. And it's just through...
Tom.
What?
When Biden gets in for my birthday, because my birthday's January the 20th.
That's right.
We can go to America.
So we can, because you're barred just now,
I am, but as soon as Biden gets in, we can go to America. Next year, let's make a plan to go to America.
Is the cost lifted then when you get back in?
Shall we go and do Disneyland, me, you and Ashley?
I want to go and do Route 66. That's what I've always wanted to do.
We'll do that. We'll hire a car and do it.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, let's do bucket list of things that you've been putting off that you just, fuck it, let's just do it.
Can he drive? Neither can Ashley. You and I will do Disneyland and then we'll do Route 66.
Right,
and we'll film bits there and we'll do it.
Right. And you know that I'll want to come home after 2 days.
I'll punch you in the head, but I'll be fine.
Right. Janie, thank you.
Thank you. I love you so much.
I love you
and
too.
And I miss you. And I can't wait to get a big hug for you. And you know that I'm here. Me and Big Philomena McClatchy. We'll be on the phone.
Awesome. Thanks, Janie.
Bye-bye, darling.
Bye. Thanks, Janie. Thanks for making me laugh like you always do. It's such a healing thing. That's all from us this week. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of Swim for Land. I'd like to thank RHA Headphones for sponsoring me and helping me to set this up. They're a local company and they make my favourite headphones. Please check them out. Their link is in the description of the podcast. Janie and I both used them in the making of the podcast today. Next week's guest is going to be Gary Tank Commander star Greg McHugh. So until then, stay safe and keep the heat.